Before the video starts, let me give you a bit of background information. In the Clash Royale arena and Brawl Stars arenas, there are many troops and brawlers that battle day in and day out. Meanwhile, there are also just regular civilians or villagers who simply spectate and do other regular day things that normal people would do. Basically, Clash Royale and Brawl Stars is like a competitive sport, and the troops are like pro players in those sports. Anyway, the story of the Musketeer, the three Musketeers from Clash Royale, and Shelly from Brawl Stars all starts off with the same beginning. Back in 2015, before the Clash Royale arena was ever opened up to the rest of the world, there was a regular old family of Clash citizens who lived in a town very close to where the Clash Royale arenas were being built. At this time, there was no Brawl Stars, and there was no Clash Royale yet. There was just Clash of Clans and tons of regular old towns. So in this specific town outside where they were currently constructing what would eventually become the Clash Royale arena, there was a regular family. The father was a hunter where he would take his musket to the forest and go hunting for food that he could later trade with at the village market. The father was a hard worker and had a huge family. By some miracle, he was lucky enough to have 5 daughters in total, one set of triplets and then 2 older sisters. At night, the hunter would spend time with his family and occasionally take them out to go exploring. One day, the father took his 5 daughters to go explore around the new arenas that were being built not far from their home. When they got there, they could hear lots of cannons firing and battling going on inside, and it sounded like a really fun time. So they snuck into the arena and sneakily watched from the stands. From there, they could see a knight fighting some skeletons, and a hog rider and a barbarian narrowly avoiding a flying arrow. The 5 daughters all sat there all starry-eyed, watching some of these professional troops battling it out. A few minutes later, the builder from Clash of Clans, alongside with the king, came marching into the arena. The king ordered all the troops out and told them that their training was done for the day. The troops all obeyed and exited the arena. Once they were all gone, the king looked to the builder and said, "Okay, show me what you wanted to show me." The builder then unveiled what looked like an army of wooden barrels. But to their surprise, the father and his 5 daughters all continued to watch in amazement as the builder then powered all of them on and they began to fly. These flying machines then started to fire some mini cannonballs from a mini cannon sticking out of it. They fired a few cannonballs before all of them started to smoke, and a few seconds later they all exploded and fell to the ground. Every single one of the flying machines blew up and their machine parts were scattered all over the battlefield. The king, who initially looked really impressed by all the machines, then started to look a bit more disappointed, and he told the builder to keep working on it and to let him know when he figured them out. The builder told him that they might need another year or so before they are finally ready for the king's arena. The builder and the king both then left the battlefield. Once they were in the clear, the 5 daughters and the father went down to the battlefield and started to dig through some of the flying machine's broken parts. All of the girls found some really cool looking mini cannons that were a part of the flying machine and ended up not getting destroyed in the explosion. So they decided to keep them and then took them back home with them. When they got home, the father tinkered a bit with it. When they got home, the father tinkered a bit with the mini cannons and ended up fixing them and turning them into his own little muskets. He even adjusted it a bit so that it could be better suited to be held in the hands of a person rather than a flying machine. He then handed what is now called a musket back to his daughters to go try out. The 5 daughters then grabbed the new musket and took it outside to give it a try. Immediately, the daughters were all naturals with it. Well, all of them except for the oldest sister. The triplets and the second oldest were all expert marksmen with the new muskets, but it turned out that the oldest one had a bad eyesight, and so she had a much harder time hitting the targets at long range. So meanwhile, the other 4 sisters were practicing away. The oldest sister went to their father. The father took the musket back and decided to make a few little tweaks to help it accommodate her poor eyesight. The father ended up transforming the long-range musket into more of a buckshot shotgun. After he finished crafting the new weapon, he handed it back to the oldest sister. The oldest sister was excited to give it a try, so she went outside and started practicing with it. And as days went on, the 5 sisters continued to try out their new muskets and shotgun. But the oldest sister was always reminded of her inabilities to shoot at long ranges. It felt to her that she was the least talented of all of her sisters. So while the other sisters were able to hit bullseyes from super far away, the oldest sister would be lucky if she could even hit a tree from standing right next to it. After a few more days of tinkering with their new toys, the second oldest sister, who was the best with a musket, decided to try out for the king at the brand new Clash Royale arenas. The oldest sister really wanted to try out for the king as well, but after she mentioned it to her sisters and father, they almost laughed at her and told her that she could barely even hit a tree from 5 feet away. The oldest sister was pretty distraught by this, and so when the day of tryouts came by, she sat back and watched her younger sister head off to the Clash Royale arenas. She later decided to even go after her and sneak into the arena to watch the tryouts. When she got there, she saw all the troops in all of their glory. They were all so talented. And then she saw her younger sister out there, holding her own and doing some incredible things. She then realized that her father and sisters were right. There was no way that she would be cut out for this kind of lifestyle. She ended up getting really upset and depressed by this and walked out to the arena. She just knew in her mind that she would never be as good as her Musketeer sister. So when she was walking back, she wasn't in the right mindset, and so she decided to walk the opposite way for a little bit, just to give her a bit of time to gather her thoughts. She ended up walking for so long that the landscape ended up changing a bit. She ended up walking into a desert where the air was super dry and there were cacti sprinkled all over the place. As she was walking, she saw some redhead standing there. She started to make her way over to him to ask for directions back home, since she has been walking forever and she was now very lost. As she got close, one of the cactuses looked like it had come to life, and it threw a deadly projectile towards the redhead. The oldest sister saw all of this happening and made a run for the redhead. She ended up diving at him and knocking him out of harm's way. And as soon as they got out of their way, some more enemies came at them. And the events that unfolded next were pretty crazy and very difficult to explain, and so I'll just let you watch for yourself.
What is this place?
Well, you got a vest-wearing cactus, grave-digging bats, and a killer biker crow. Oh, and if you stop to explain, you're a goner.
Okay. Someone normal. Call.
So together, the oldest sister, the redhead, and the music-playing mariachi guy fought off all the enemies. It was an intense battle, but with the help of the oldest sister's shotgun, they were able to fend them off. Being exhausted, the redhead and the older sister sat next to each other, and she asked him what his name was. He replied saying that his name was Colt, and he then asked, "What about you?" And there she replied, "My name's Shelly." And that there is part 1 of Shelly's origin story. The second part is a pretty long one and answers a lot of unanswered questions, like how Shelly actually got to the Brawl Stars arena, how she got her star power that slows enemies down and the one where she gets more health, and also how she got her special gadget that lets her dash away. And I think most importantly, the biggest question is if she ever got back to her family in the Clash Royale arenas. But all of that will be explained inside of part 2 of this story, which is already done and uploaded. I just wanted to split this video into 2 videos so that this one isn't too long, because it is a pretty long video. So as soon as this video reaches 1,500 likes or 1,500, I will post part 2 of this story. Also, right after that, I have the long anticipated Colt's origin story, so right after part 2 of Shelly's story comes out, I will post Colt's story. So drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so that you do not miss it. Anyways, I'll see you guys all hopefully very soon. Peace out.